Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters on YouTube. My name's Queberon, and today I want to talk a little bit about some of the moments in UFC Strike Series 1 that may be getting overlooked because these fighters aren't very well known. They're the rookies, so to speak. These are guys who have had generally 3 or less fights. I got a couple of even debut fighters for the UFC on this list. And like I said in a previous video, I did not purchase any of UFC Strike Series 1 just because I didn't think the value would be there. And now that the marketplace is open, my suspicions have been confirmed. I mean, the average standard pack is worth about $12 on the marketplace. The average premium pack is worth about $70 on the marketplace. So it was a loser as far as investment potential goes. On the quick turnaround, UFC Strike has become something that if you want to really invest in it, you're looking at a long-term investment here because there still are no obvious plans on the horizon for how they're going to use utility in UFC Strike. I've put forward a few different ideas on one of my previous videos, but until they get things going on the utility side of things, the community is going to constantly just treat it like a lottery, purchase packs, rip them open, and then dump whatever they don't like back on the marketplace for peanuts. So if you are looking to get into UFC Strike, I'd say either collect the sets, if you think that's going to be a thing, or more importantly, pick out the fighters that you like best, stack those, and be in it for the long term. It's a long-term investment. This is not a short-term thing. It's not like maybe NFL All Day or NBA Top Shot where you can maybe get a quick turnaround depending on what happens with the marketplace and what happens specifically with the games that are being played and the utility that's being utilized. So for now, UFC Strike's a long-term investment, treat it as such. And that being said, today's video makes a lot of sense because I'm looking at potential fighters who could in the future be big deals, or maybe they're just going to be nothing. Maybe they're just going to be someone who has their moment in the UFC, makes a few bucks as a mixed martial artist, has a couple of special finishes that end up on UFC Strike, and that's about it. Let's get into the rookies for UFC Strike Series 1 and which ones I think you should be stacking and which ones I think you should take a pass on. Let's go. I'm going to let you know whether or not these are up-and-comers that you should maybe invest in now before the hype train figures them out, or are they just going to be also-rans in the UFC, maybe gatekeepers or tests for other up-and-comers to prove themselves. And I'll begin with Bruno Silva. And Bruno Silva has the history. He's 22-7 as a professional in mixed martial arts. He's 32 years old as a middleweight, which is not that bad at all. Generally, that's your prime. And he's looked pretty good in the UFC except for his last fight. His last fight was against Alex Pereira, who is a great kickboxer, but only 5-1 as a mixed martial artist. He's basically new to the sport, trying to make a name for himself here. And he comes in with a lot of hype because he has one of the wins as a kickboxer over Israel Adesanya. Now, does that make him a legitimate threat in mixed martial arts? Not necessarily. It makes him a dangerous striker, but it's well known that his grappling isn't the greatest at this point. And Bruno Silva, although he does possess the skills to maybe take advantage of that, didn't in this fight. He wasn't able to. Pereira's takedown defense was good enough that he could spend most of his time standing and outpoint him for a decision victory. That's not good news for Bruno Silva, who is a veteran of mixed martial arts. He couldn't take advantage of that weakness in Pereira's game. So going forward, I don't see him as a legitimate threat really to the top guys, although he is fun to watch and he can be a bit of a gatekeeper against other strikers and other grappling specialists. So that's Bruno Silva. Now let's get into Della Maddalena. And Della Maddalena has got a lot of potential going forward. We still don't really know who this guy is when it comes right down to it. So he could be somebody worth snatching up his moment, maybe a couple of them, just in case he turns out to be what we hope he is. We don't know because he's 11-2 as a mixed martial artist, but those 2 losses came at the very beginning of his career. So he's really on an 11-fight win streak, which is very impressive. But keep in mind, only one of those fights has been in the UFC. We saw him in his debut. He was against a significantly weaker opponent who was also making their debut, so we just don't know how good he is until he fights against an octagon veteran. It doesn't have to be a superstar, just somebody who's had a number of fights in the UFC, who knows how to maybe grind out a victory if necessary. And we can see if Della Maddalena, who's really a power puncher, right? He's a power puncher. He's a primarily fists specialist, right? He's a boxer first, mixed martial artist second when it comes right down to it. can he use those skills and utilize the full ability in order to grind out a victory against somebody who's done it before? That's what we need to see. We'll find out in his next fight, hopefully. So, do I think Della Maddalena is someone worth investing in? Sure, I just wouldn't stack his moments, maybe get one or two just in case. Then I'll move on to Chris Curtis. And Chris Curtis is another veteran of the octagon, right? He's 28-8. He's also a middleweight. He's at 34 years of age, so he's getting on just a little bit. He's a really exciting fighter to watch. He's got dynamic striking, right? This guy is a blast to watch. And that's why he's really in the UFC. That's the reason he's here, is because Dana can see what he can do and how exciting his fights can be. Whether he wins or loses, it's generally a fun fight to watch. So the UFC likes to have those guys on their roster. Unfortunately, against high-level grapplers, his takedown defense is poor. It's brutal. Grapplers just beat him. It's that simple. If he can't catch them early with a solid shot, it's over for him against a grappler. So Chris Curtis will never compete against the top-level guys. Just won't happen. But he will serve as a gatekeeper against other strikers coming up because he's such a dynamic striker. It gives you a chance to see, are these guys coming up legitimate with their striking or lucky with their striking? Because he'll put them to the test and we'll find out if they do or not. Also, we'll find out if they got a good chin because he tends to tag people at least a few times before he's put away or taken down by high-level grapplers. So he's going to be fun to watch, but this is not someone to significantly invest in. Then I'll move on to Vyacheslav Borshchev. And Vyacheslav Borshchev could be a serious threat in the lightweight division. He's 6-1 as a mixed martial artist. He's 30 years of age, so he's basically just entering his prime. He possesses brutal punching power. This guy can just tag you, whether it's a body shot or to the head, and just put you away. So that's always something that's great to have as a mixed martial artist. But more importantly, is he's got good wrestling. He's got very good wrestling, trains the American top team. They've got some of the best wrestlers in mixed martial arts. He works on that part of his game constantly, and he's able to use it offensively or defensively, which is such a huge thing in mixed martial arts. Really, it generally separates the top fighters from the okay fighters or the even great fighters. The top ones always have that ability to use wrestling in some way or form to keep the fight where they want it to be, which is what he's been able to do against the people he's fought thus far. And to be honest, they've been good, but not great. So we should find out pretty much tonight, okay, whether or not he's got the ability to go toe to toe with a veteran, because he's got a big fight tonight. And then the last guy I'll go over is Canadian Chad Anheliger. And Anheliger has had a long journey to get to the UFC, right? It took him 12 years of professional mixed martial arts fights to get his first fight in the UFC, which has just passed. And it was a war in his first fight. It was not an easy fight. Went back and forth. Both fighters landed great shots in that fight. He's a bantamweight, but he can knock opponents out, which is a big deal as a bantamweight, right? He's 35. He's not young for having his first debut fight in the UFC. He got that finish. He got it late in the third, put his opponent away. It was an impressive war. Great fight to watch, honestly. But he just does not have the skills at this time in his career to really make a run in the UFC. He's a grinder. He's scrappy. He's got that knockout power. He'll be somebody that the UFC looks to put on prelims against up-and-comers, younger up-and-comers, to see if they can handle somebody who can really grind out that fight. And that's what he's going to be for the UFC. As long as he can keep getting wins, they'll keep him there. If he starts to stack losses, he'll be let go very quickly. So again, not someone you should really invest in unless you're looking to complete the set when it comes right down to it. And those are the rookie moments in Series 1. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anybody you want to stack out of that group. Maybe there's someone you think I've got misrepresented in this little review. Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't yet, do yourself a solid. Check out the website, www.prosportspodcasters.com, and sign up to be a PSP Insider, because I'm going to have some great information coming out to our insiders about what to do with UFC Strike going forward. Till next time.